My name is Dylan Mace. I'm the administrator of the Utah Public Notice website and the Open Records portal here at the Utah State Archives and Records Service. I'm going to do a quick presentation today on the new Open Records portal that is rolling out on December 6th. So let me get this ready to present. Is everyone able to see that? Okay. Today I'll be doing a walkthrough on the new Open Records portal, which is scheduled to go live in the afternoon, evening of December 6th. There may be some slight differences in the screens you see today and the site when it goes live next week, but this will give you a pretty good introduction. This is a dynamic system that allows for a simple, more fluid process of responding to record requests than the current system that you're used to. I'll go through and show you some options for responding to record requests. The thing I like about this system is that the way you respond to each step determines what options you will have later. It's much like a choose your own adventure book that you may have read as a kid. And I would also like to, as an aside, thank Heidi Steed, who's part of our local government team. She created a diagram of how grandma requests should be answered depending on certain situations. And what she created looked like a big, crazy wiring diagram. And the developers of this site used that to create it. So it makes sense when you're going through it. Looking at it as a big map is kind of daunting. So we'll start off with the screen that members of the public create their requests in. Obviously, records officers won't be using the screen to do their jobs, but we need a request to respond to, and you may as well see how it's created. We ask for the basic contact information, name, email, phone, and physical address. Then we ask for a subject title for the request and description. We have provided some bullet points of information that the requester needs to include so that you have enough information to respond. We have fields for the date range. And then something new. From time to time, someone from the legislature or my department director wants to know who in general uses the portal. What is it being used for? We've never had a good way to track this, so I've never been able to provide a good answer. So we've included this very basic system to get at some of that information. You will notice that there is not a red star next to this. So if someone chooses not to answer for privacy's sake or what have you, it's not mandatory. Right there, reason for request, legal, journalism, reporting, personal or business. And then after that, the member of the public pushes next. On the next screen, the requester chooses whether they want to inspect the records in person, gain a copy of them, and whether they want to request a fee waiver. Next, they choose whether to request an expedited request. By default, this is marked no, because not everyone needs an expedited request. If the records are restricted, the requester can provide reasons why they may still be granted access. They can upload a file related to the request. This may be a copy of their ID, a power of attorney, or something clarifying their request. Then they click Submit Public Record Request. And if they're sure they want to submit, they click Submit Public Record Request again. Then we give the requester an opportunity to download a copy of their submission. Now it comes to you. This is what the email will look like when you receive it. On the bottom there, you can see a link that will take you to the request directly. I was already logged into Utah ID, so when I clicked on the link, it popped me over to this screen. Now I click Start Form, and off we go. Immediately, we are provided with the submission date, the subject title, description, and dates for the request. And the first question you see is this request a request for records? Right after I started working at the archive, someone called me and said, I'm from a small town and no one ever makes record requests. If someone needs to know something, they come to my office and say, how long has Joe had the donkey? And I tell that story because, as Rosemary Cundiff, the grandma ombudsman, says, a question is not a record request. It has to actually be for government records, documents that you keep for government purposes. So if it's just a question, it's not actually a record request. However, we're all public servants, so if you're able to help your fellow citizen, you should. Since this is how to respond to a record request in the new Open Records portal, we will answer yes. The website will then ask, does your agency own or retain the records requested? Say yes, and the request will be accepted. You will be asked to compute the due date and answer whether you expect to use extraordinary circumstances. Then click Next. Now we work through private, protected, and controlled. I've decided that the hypothetical record is private, protected, or controlled, and that my alter ego has already claimed that I am the subject of the record. I mark that the requester is authorized to access the record and that I have sufficient evidence. After all, if I'm not me, who am I? Then we click Next. Or if we choose No, we are given other options. Part of the great thing about this new website is that it is really dynamic. Depending on how you answer things, you get new options. And so this is just kind of a walkthrough. It, like I said, it's very much like one of those choose your own adventure books from when you were a kid. So depending on which thing you mark, you get entirely different options to go to from there. These are just some examples of how you might mark it other ways and the responses that the website will give you. Here we have the extraordinary circumstances and final review page. For instance, if you mark that another government entity is using the record, then it will provide a field for you to add when you expect the records to be returned and made available. Or if the request is for voluminous amounts of records, you can choose when you'll be done compiling those. And it gives you a date where you can put that in. Or if legal counsel needs to review them, you get 5 extra days. If none of these apply, then you move on to the review status. If you approve, you can upload a file or files. If you deny the request, You're provided with a field where you can explain why the record request is being denied. Completion comments is a field where you can write a note to the requester clarifying what has been provided, or maybe what was not included and why, or even just a thanks, hope you have a great weekend. If you need to assign the request to someone else, this is the place to do so under the review status. By choosing needs to be reassigned to another team member, it will then give you the option of choosing the person and sending them a note concerning the request. Then if you click next, you have a field to record your internal notes about the request. Then you may click continue, deny, approve, reassign, or that you need more info. Then we confirm our submission, and it sends that information in an email to the record requester. They should not need to log back into the website as they did in the past. That often caused confusion because the current website, if a request is responded to, then it counts it as completed and it no longer shows it automatically in the website. We won't have that issue with this new site. So the program that was used to design the website is really dynamic and super easy to edit. So if the law changes regarding grandma, we can update the site pretty much immediately. The same goes for you. If you think of some feature that would make the site better for everyone, please let us know and we can get that changed really quickly. There is one thing that's still in the works that I expect to be completed really soon. Many of you already have websites where the public can make record requests, such as GovQA, and there are a few other ones that I know that people are using. And it's kind of a hassle to have to use the state website and whichever site your agency or city, county, what have you, is using. And so we will have it so that if a person wants to come in here and make a record request, when they click on that, it'll just bump them over to your website. The new Open Records portal is actually all set up and ready to go for that. Our other system that we use to manage entities and users, it needs a field inserted into that still. I think that'll be pretty quickly completed, and then it'll be all good to go from there. And all of this is really just to make it easier for you and easier for the public, keep everybody from having a headache. And that's pretty much it. I think it's going to be really interesting for you to get to know the site because, like I said, whichever button you click, it will give you new options, new ways of things. Yes, so a lot of people are used to responding outside the portal. There should be a tab in there to respond outside the portal. It's not going to be right at the beginning, though, I don't think. And yeah, BRWCD utility billing. I think I just explained that we're waiting for our entity and user management program to just add that tab. The Open Records portal that we're putting out next week is all set up to do that. We just need the feed information to be set up correctly. I think that'll be done really quickly. Let's see, lots of questions. Courtney Harris, I think you asked a question. Need to turn on your mic. Okay. Somebody asked a question, is this live on State Archive? Not sure what you meant by that. We at the State Archive manage the site, but if that's not the answer to your question, let me know a little bit more information. Yes, multiple team members should be able to access the whole request. That's something that has been really frustrating with the old portal, is that really only one person could do it. It was often difficult to reassign it to someone else. This is going to be a lot simpler to share with everyone in your office who needs access to it. Jeanette Kirkland, I actually don't have that at the moment, but I'm going to contact the developer right after this meeting, because while we've been creating the website, we have an online meeting much like this one. We talk about it, we say, hey, something's missing right there, and they put it in immediately. So that will be a feature of the new website, promise. Yeah, you'll be able to answer the part of the request that applies to you, and it'll be just like the old one where you can respond to the parts that apply to you, and then you explain that you don't have access to those other records, and please point them in the direction of the agency or agencies that have the other information that they're requesting. Linda Bright, do you have a question?
I do, and maybe you answered it and I'm just not really clear. But
Okay.
the way that DCFS has got our portals requests before is one person at the state office has opened them and then figure out kind of what area of the state the records are in and sends it to us.
Uh-huh.
So at that time, they really don't know if it's going to be an extended period of time or whatever to answer those questions. Because they don't know what our workload is. They don't know how much that's going to entail time-wise and how many cases it is or at all. So when they open that and then send it on to each one of the grandma specialists as the person to complete it, will we be able to get into that as well to go back and answer those questions?
Yes, there's a field and a calendar box that you can put in for those extenuating circumstances that are going to take longer than the 10 business days required by law. You can put in the actual amount of time that it will take you to collect those records and provide them to the requester.
Okay, so even though somebody that we don't ever see that sends them to us in an email, we will be able to get in and actually respond to that request, even though we're a total separate person. Because in the past we haven't. We just verbally and email respond to the requests and do them. So do we have to go back to the portal now and answer those questions?
So
it's going to actually be more work that way.
So were you responding outside of the portal previously?
Yes, always, because the same person was opening all of them, figuring out kind of even if there was 80 cases, which region had the majority of them, and sent that out to the region, because we're in all different areas of the state. There's, last thing I knew, like 29 of us. And so then we would respond to it. But now do we have to go back and respond on the portal to this person? Because we never did. And the person sending them really doesn't know all the information to know if it's going to be lengthy or if it's going to be fast or how long it's going to take or any of those questions.
Right. So the new website's going to be a lot more dialogue friendly. In the past, it was just sort of like somebody opened it and it automatically set 10 days, and you they probably sent the PDF to you and then closed it, and you had to comment to the requester outside of the open records portal.
Yes, which is how we do
So-
for all of them that emails
Right.
us or in office anyways. That really isn't a problem.
Right. So now when the person who opens the request opens it, they can assign it to someone else, and that will send you that email with the link to it. Then if you
get into
choose
it.
to
Okay.
respond outside the portal, you may, but I mean, it's possible that you might actually find that this is maybe a better system than responding directly to the requester. I'm not sure. I mean, I think it will be up to each individual's preference.
Yeah, it probably very well could be, but before we wouldn't have even known the chain to come back.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because it would go from that person to our supervisor, then assigned.
Right.
You know, it's gone through several hands by the time we get it. So I was wondering how we would get back into it. But you're saying there's links, so when it's passed on to us, we can. That was my question.
Yeah. Yeah. So that I showed earlier on in the training a copy of the email that you'll receive when you get a request assigned to you. There's a link right there. You click on it and it brings you right into the website.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. I saw a question come up that I then forgot immediately. And Angela Smith, you have a question.
Yes, I do. And I did write it down on the thing. My question is there a way to just automatically set it to give the 10 business day date like the current portal does? Because that's really nice. So that it helps manage expectations. If we get it out sooner, great. If we have to get the deadline, then they at least know that we have 10 days to do it.
Right. So if no one opens the request in 10 business days, it's automatically denied. But, and I know that they're working on changing this, but the way this system's set up at the moment is that the records officer can go in and actually put in if it's going to be 10 business days less, or if it's the extenuating circumstances. It's really important to me that it gets that automatic 10 business days unless you set it otherwise. But at the moment, that's not how it's set up. Caleb Olson. From a school district, I don't always have the same business days as the state, so it is great to not have to automatically set the due date for us. Okay, so that could be really useful for some people. Esley, you have a question?
I just have that quick question, same as LPD records. If we upload anything to the system, will there be records? So sometimes it's happened in the past where I've sent a record to a certain serial grammar requesting where like I have already responded to this. And the only reason I was able to pull it up was because I'd made an actual PDF copy of it and I wasn't able to pull it off the website.
So right now, let's see, I think it's 2 years plus however long it takes to resolve an appeal, that the actual record for a record request is maintained in the open records portal. The actual information that records officers provide, that usually gets deleted pretty quickly. I think it's 30 to 60 days maybe, just because some of those are really voluminous records. And if we're storing everything indefinitely, that gets kind of expensive for storage. But also, if somebody is always requesting the same record, you can deny every other request that is for that same record because you've already responded to it. That's what the law states. Linda, I see that you have a question about the 10 business days, not including holidays. As the system is set up right now, you can determine whether those 10 business days include holidays or not. And so I guess if you choose to use it that way, this system will work better than the open records portal that exists currently. Huntington Recorder, I see that you have a raised hand. If you have a question, go ahead and ask it. Okay. Are there other questions? Maybe some that came in earlier that I missed?
Yeah, sure. I'll ask a question because DPS has implemented their own records portal.
Yep.
So how will that interact with the current records portal? Because we have requests coming in through our new portal and then also requests coming in and filtered through our old portal.
Right. So the new system, we've actually got it set up in the new system, but we're waiting for a field to be created in our user and program management side, where we just add the email address, cut and paste that into it. And then when a person comes into the new open records portal and wants to make a record request, it will go straight to whatever website your agency prefers to use. That's not ready yet, but I expect it to be ready within the month. And then from there on out, you essentially won't need to interact with the state's open records portal. Everything should go directly to your preferred website.
Yeah, we're really excited to hear that, but yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions? There's a question from Kendall Christensen earlier. I don't think I answered that. Came in pretty early. And it's, can multiple team members access the request and see internal notes? And yes, everybody who, the plan is that everyone who is set up as a records officer in your agency will be able to access it. It won't be necessarily assigned to an individual person and exclude everyone else. And so that should be accessible to everyone.
Hey, Dylan,
Yes.
there's a question if there's an option to grant a request in part.
Yeah, I thought that I answered that question already.
Okay.
In that you can respond to the request with the records that you have and then assign it to someone else or deny partial denial. I'm just reading through the earlier questions to see if I caught everything.
I just want to confirm two things.
Uh-huh.
First one is it's advised that we use this if we don't have our own like DPS, but not required, correct?
So if a person sends you an email or something in the mail that is a record request, those count as record requests. Actually, anything in writing counts as a record request. So if you do get a record request through the Open Records portal, you need to respond to it, but you can certainly respond through other venues. And did that answer your question?
Yeah, I usually just tell people when they send me an email want stuff that they need to submit it formally through the open records, because then I have a better tracking, and if I run into trouble with Rosemary, I have some kind of support.
Watch out for trouble with Rosemary.
Yeah, so. The second one I wanted to confirm is, you'd mentioned this is for records officers. What if we get into the appeals side of it, the chief administrative officer needing to get involved? Is that meant to be done outside of this, or is there any appeal traffic patterns inside of this portal?
So there's never really been any intention of adding the appeals to this. It gets brought up once in a while, but then people have various reasons why they don't think it should be in there. Chief among those is that if it's denied because nobody ever answers it, then having them appeal through here is probably not the best option. We want to take it into a different venue where we're more likely to get a response, maybe, if somebody, for whatever reason, isn't checking this or not responding.
Okay, excellent. I understood the full scope here, so I make sure I design my policies and procedures right. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dylan, there was one more question that came in from Amy. Did you see that one? The very bottom.
Very bottom. Okay. I don't have an answer to Amy's question right now, so that we don't bombard people. We're testing out the website, and so when I deny or respond to the request, it actually doesn't send something. I wanted to show that to you, but I don't actually have it. We're doing a lot of testing right now, so I think we just didn't want to create a monster. Carrie, and then Allison after Carrie.
Hi, yeah, I work with UTA, and the way it's been set up thus far is that very rarely do we get portal requests, but when we do, it's emailed to our manager. And so is this something we will have to go in now and set up again so requests are automatically forwarded to her or to one of us, or will we need to check it regularly?
If your manager is set up as the default records officer, they'll continue to receive the records requests, and then they can reassign it through the system to you or anyone else who's set up in the system as a records officer. You should not need to go in and check the system at any time. You should receive a notification that you have a record request pending, and then you can just click on the link in that email and it will take you to it.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Allison?
Yeah, I asked in the chat, but I don't think I was really specific at all. You mentioned, and I apologize if you answered this already, you mentioned be able to link the Open Records portal to what we already have via our website. It's a form via our website, though. Is that still workable?
If there's a URL, then that should work. When the tab goes live, and I don't know that that's actually going to be included on December 6th, it might be a little bit after that. But when that aspect of the website goes live, so long as an entity has a URL for a form or another website that manages record requests, anything like that, we'll either have you add that information or send it to me, and I can make sure that it's updated correctly. I don't think that I don't think there are so many entities in Utah with their own websites or forums that I would be drowning in work if that was the case. So when that is set up, you can just send me those URLs and I'll make sure that it's in the system.
So my only
Okay.
question with that,
Appreciate it.
Allison, would just be, what would the customer experience in that case? Would they just be given a form, but not with any explanation about where they're turning it in, who to hand it to, how to get it to you? So I would say the form would, if the only thing they're getting is that form, then they will need to have the explanation on the form for what to do with the form when they finish.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna take the idea back and see what that might look like. And honestly, we receive so few via the open records portal that I'm not worried about keeping track, but I do love consistency and flow into one area. So I'm just gonna kind of explore that option for sure.
Are there other questions? Well, Brian Jensen asked if a request can be reopened after it is closed. In the old system, if it was still within the 10 business days, that was pretty easy to reopen it. If it was past those 10 business days, that was an ordeal. And I think it should be about the same in this new one. I'm going to need to check on that. But yeah, if the response is closed and it's still within those 10 business days, it should be able to be reopened. Any other questions? Well, thank you for everyone who attended today. I'm sure that as it goes live, you'll have more questions. Feel free to contact me. My email is dylanmace@utah.gov, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can with any questions. And talk to you later, I guess.